his
Yeah.
legacy and why and maybe what what he deserves to be credited for that he never got credit for whatever reason.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, the first thing I got to say is that it's. I mean, it's obvious there. Racism is a part of the fabric in this country. However great, however small it is something that I feel that some people pull out when they shouldn't, and then sometimes it should be pulled out the card, and it's not. It's another like undefined term like racism. Like a guy can get in an elevator
Yeah.
and with a black kid, he could be with four businessmen that are white guys, and he could feel uncomfortable and say these motherfuckers are racist.
Right.
That's
Right.
very possible. And maybe they are, but for me, when it comes to music and musicians, I think that there's less of that in there. I do think that there are some people that benefit because of their race, and it goes both sides. I mean, I'm positive there are some of the. I remember back in the '70s and particularly in the '80s. If you were like a white pop artist, there were certain advantages and opportunities that were there for that person that weren't there for, say, if you were a funk artist. Like, for instance, MTV. I think there's a great interview with David Bowie where he lays it right out with those guys. I mean, they were early MTV. It was horrible what they did. They didn't play like, bands like Earth, Wind, and Fire that sold more records than 90% of the people that were played on MTV. And the reason that they weren't played was because, the music wouldn't fit or something like that. But then along came Michael Jackson with Thriller, and there's an inside story. I don't want to misquote or give any wrong information, but let's just say that MTV was told, if you don't play this, you're not going to get that. And so they played Michael Jackson, and of course it changed music, it changed the world, and people were, like, geez, who's that? All that stuff happens. I mean, getting back to Stan Getz, I mean, and I love the skipper too, Henry Franklin. I love people that say I'm this kind of guy, I'm a Coltrane guy. I mean, like me, I'm a Coltrane guy.
Sure.
But because I'm a Coltrane guy doesn't mean that I'm going to nullify or diminish someone else's ability. Stan Getz was a great bebop saxophone player, and period. And I remember one time hearing Ron Carter speak on Stan. Ron had the biggest respect for Stan Getz as a musician. If Stan did anything that you could put under the category of being a racist or something. I mean, I never saw it. He was always really kind to me. I mean, I have so many stories with Stan that some cannot be aired.
Well, no, I mean, I guess here's the thing. I'm going to be, I'm going to be out in Los Angeles with this film producer, and if you're available, I would love to come capture a couple of these stories that you can talk about on camera, because this is going to be. I really have loved grooving with you on the radio, but I'd love to meet with you in person, and I realize that I've already done a lot of wood shit. I mean, I've already uncovered. I talked to Billy Hart. I mean, I've talked to. I'm going to talk to Jack DeJohnette about Getz, but I'll be out in a couple weeks, so I'm going to talk to George, and hopefully we can link that up, because I want to keep grooving on this, because I know that Getz. I think there was some kind of like insecurity in the sense that he was a great player, but some of the cats wanted to make it sure that jazz is an African art form, so they were on the train side,
Yeah, I mean, it must be, it's just one of those things, We human beings, we tend to put a lot of importance in on our differences. You know, I do it, and we all do it at certain times, and it's just something that maybe one of these days, you know, thousands of years from now, you know, we'll all figure it out. You know, but you know,
Yeah.
I like that. The shortest Maya Angelou poem is, it's really short, and it says, she goes, you know, we're more alike than unalike. That's one of my favorite, you know, Maya Angelou poems. You know, and you know, it just, you know, I loved working with Stan. It was great, and he was always cool to me. I was cool to him, and he was, you know, that guy could play. Period.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to figure out what I know that you and Lenny go way back, but I'm just curious if Tony Williams. Yeah. I'm just curious if Tony Williams ever was considered for Return to Forever. But I know he was a leader in his own right at that point.
No. Lenny was. Tony was never considered. The only other drummer that was considered for Return to Forever and actually did a few gigs. We did a record that never came out. That was Steve Gadd.
You told me that last time. That blew people away, man. I love that.
That was it. He was, you know, we did. I'd say we played maybe 20 gigs.
You cut a record.
The album, The Hymn of the Seventh Galaxy, was recorded. The full album with Stevie Gadd. And for some reason, we don't know where the tapes are. We don't know what.
Gosh.
But then Stevie had to go somewhere or whatever. And then I told Chick about Lenny. And I mean, Chick had known Lenny, but I said, man, why don't you hire Lenny? And then Lenny came into the band, and then we recorded the thing again. Maybe the stuff that we did with Stevie, because maybe we didn't finish the record. Maybe we just did one song. I don't know. But I do remember he played the Hymn of the Seventh Galaxy, that song. And when he came along, it was right after the Light as a Feather period, because we would do Spain, we'd do all those tunes, 500 Miles High, and we had a crooner player with us. And we hired Billy Connors. And it's funny, we had gotten Billy Connors, and Lenny helped us get Billy Connors, but then Lenny went off with this band called Azteca,
right?
And that's why we had Stevie Gadd, and then Stevie had to go. Lenny, and I said, "Come on, man, you need to leave Azteca and come over here." so just leave those guys, man. You're not Indian. Forget it.
You're not Latino. I love. Well, I mean, the whole thing is it was one of the most, for me, not even being alive, but just looking at that time period, studying it so vigorously. It was everybody was. I think that's the thing, though. I mean, I think that it's imperative, and that's why I love talking to you, man, because it's just what you do. It's true to yourself. You give back, and the cats that don't give, more cats have to give back, because the lineage of the music, the younger cats need to know that they need to go farther back in order to move forward. Yeah. That's just my feeling. So exactly
right. And you know something, I just kind of a light went off in my head.
Yeah.
I just recognize. Well, I've known this for a while, but there is no real documentation about that period, like pre Bitches Brew, going through Bitches Brew into the fusion.
Yep.
You know, those powerhouse bands like Return to Forever, Mahavishnu Orchestra, Weather Report, Herbie Hancock's band, and a few others. There's nothing really documented. I was hoping that Wynton Marsalis would have taken the opportunity to talk about those bands, but he didn't choose to do that on that jazz thing that he did with Ken Burns. I was very disappointed about that, because it was very. And it's funny, Lenny White, his dream is to do a movie, a documentary about that. I'm telling you, you know, Jake, if you should talk to Lenny.
No, listen, Stanley. I'm marinating. No, because we started with Horace Silver and we'll end with Horace Silver, but the truth is that this is where I've been marinating for 5 years. I have endless content. I think it's. I mean, you had it was the most elastic period, in music, and yeah, it needs to be documented because you're bringing in
Yeah.
the, you're bringing in rock cats, you're bringing in jazz,
Yeah.
you're bringing in everything, and the old school guard was still alive, and the touring circuit was still
Yeah.
vibrant, and I mean, even so, I still can't quite figure out the chronology. I'm gonna have to go back, but it's like you come back from Japan, you're playing the Keystone Corner, somehow you're playing with Getz at this. I mean, the whole thing. It was like I can't even imagine where your head was at that time. It was. I mean, and with time perspective, it was the most vibrant live music experience of all time. It was incredible. So I'll talk to Lenny about it. But
Yeah.
listen. I'll reach out to George, but I'd love to connect with you in a week or so and do
Yeah.
some stuff on film.
Well,
man.
here's the deal. All July, I'm going to be in Europe. So, we might not. I'll be back from Europe on the 23rd of July. So, if you're out here somewhere after that, that's fine. If not, I'm shooting around different places around the country. Let's see, you're in Arizona, right?
Yeah, I need you to come to Tucson, man. Come down to play.
Tucson.
Come down
So
and play with
there's
Natasha
a
or something.
chance.
Yeah.
I have one of my boyhood friends who's a doctor. He has a practice out there that's close to. How close is Tucson? Let's see, Tucson is how many miles from Phoenix?
Yeah, I mean it's an hour and 20 minutes. It's a cakewalk. I'll come up
Okay,
there.
great,
I'll come up
great.
there.
So
yeah.
I go to see him, and I'm due to go to see him. And so when I do that, we'll stay in touch.
Definitely.
I'll come by, and I'll see you.
All right, brother, man. Yeah, listen, much love to you, man. Keep doing what you're doing, man.
All right, man. Cool.
Peace.
Take care.
All right, man.
All right.
Later.
All right.
And that's a wrap for the Jake Feinberg Show. Thanks to Jackson Kraft for coming in. We wish him all the best on his test